Oh, so you have a system. Okay, I'm interested. Tell me about that.
All right, well, over here the clothes are only worn once. Here's all my school clothes. So I've got all my papers for this week on that table, and the clean clothes right out in the hall.
Okay, so you do have a system. Think you'll ever have one that looks good too?
Probably.
Well, as long as your system can include 3 additional things, then I'm good with it.
What things?
Well, let's say before you go to bed at night, all the food and drink comes out and goes in the trash, the dishes go in the dishwasher, and once a week you come in here and make it look a little better and vacuum. And I'll be able to stay after the rest of the week.
Alright.
Alright, so let's come up with some ideas how we can make sure that you add those 3 additional things to your system and how I can stay off your back the rest of the week. Any ideas?
So, again, she had her bottom line. She let him talk first. And she also owned that she was on his back a lot. And nobody likes that. Nobody likes doing it, and nobody likes to have it done to them. Any thoughts about that? Yeah.
I have a question. Like, what happens if your child hates when you ask questions like that?
Yeah, and won't answer.
They get annoyed.
Yeah.
When I say, well, what do you think would be a good idea? I don't know. Why do you always ask me that?
Yeah. Okay, well, why do you always ask?
Because I'd like to find a solution.
Yeah. And you probably say that.
Right. But it still creates a tension, and I don't
Right.
seem to get too far with it.
Yeah, I mean, one thing is, and I'm sure that this is true with you all, being sincere is important. Like, really, honestly, wanting to, I'd be curious what his system was. I mean, I never would have known that that was his system if he didn't tell it. I mean, there's probably some kind of system, or there's just like, well, I know where everything is, or it's just, this isn't my priority, Mom. The fact that, in my home, my teenagers had, a carpet this thick with clothing. They seemed to know where it was, their stuff was. They didn't have food in it. But anyway, that was not their priority at that point to clean the room. They are a little bit cleaner nowadays. Being sincere is important when you ask when you ask those questions. Sincerely wanting to know. And one of the things that I find useful is I don't want to think up the ideas constantly. I'm tired of thinking up solutions and trying new things to get my kids to do things. I want them to do some thinking. So if I'm sincerely asking, that's good. And then there is also the default. The default is if you can't come up with an idea, then I have to come up with an idea, and you may not like it. So I'd rather hear some ideas from you that you would also, own and feel good about doing. Does that make some sense? I mean, I can't promise you that that's going to get good results. This is about hedging your bets for better results. But there is a default. You do own your home. You are legally responsible for your child until they're 18. So you are the one who has to make the decisions that they're unable to make. Whether they're unable to make them because they're not capable brain-wise of making them or experience-wise of making them, or they're not willing to make them. So you are the bottom line default. But hopefully they'll get used to that kind of thing. Some people write notes too, that kind of thing. Or, you're driving in the car, what do you think we should do about this? So it's not so, let's sit down and have a talk or something like that. So here's what, getting into that, everybody's level of disrespect is different. I probably can tolerate a certain amount. As a matter of fact, I actually like arguing an attitude a little bit. I think it's quite funny often. I'm amazed with how some people can roll their eyes. It's really curious. And so I can't do it as well as that. And also I do think attitude is quite funny. Now, I do want my children to be able to function in the world and be respectful to other people and not totally trash me or abuse me. But my level may be a little bit different than your level. I guess what I do suggest to you is that you let go of certain things that are just basic barks as opposed to bites, like eye rolling. If they eye roll, oh well, what's the difference? It's not going to hurt anybody. That doesn't mean you're going to do anything different. So let's illustrate. We're going to go back to that science project thing, because that was pretty disrespectful. So go ahead.
Mom, can we go? The store's gonna close.
You know, I have to say, you waited for the last minute to let me know that you needed to go to the store. I think you knew about this project for quite some time.
Well, it wouldn't be last minute if you could just get your stuff together and leave in less than 3 hours.
Okay, we're going to need to talk about this later.
Mom?
Okay, so right here, I'm done talking about this. And I might say in a little bit, if you want to discuss this plan for the next time, we can talk about whether or not we can get to the store or something like that, but I need you to talk about it in a reasonable fashion. I might go back and say that at some point, but first, I'm going to be done with that conversation. I might say, I can't talk about it like this, we're done for now, I might walk off, I might even say, do you want to do the redo on that one? If that cues them in. But here's what is very tempting to do that I'm going to suggest you don't do. I'll show you as I walk out. Go ahead, Deb.
Fine, walk away. I'm just gonna fail the class. And it's gonna be all your fault because you were too lazy to drive.
I am not too lazy. I can't believe you're saying that about me. You knew about this for the longest. Okay, don't do that. Just keep going. Keep going. Bark, 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 bark. You're not taking them to the store when they're talking like that. And she's going to have to come up with some kind of redo and a plan, a polite redo of that before you're going to do anything.
What if they chase after you?
Yeah. Well, clink, headphones on, that kind of thing. You just, they don't get to come where you are all the time. So if you have to lock a door and put your headphones on, do it, and you do it a few times and it gets through that that's just not something that's going to be effective. So your style of communication, as you've obviously seen, is really important. If you can stay friendly and matter of fact, use terms like, here's what has to happen. Okay, here's what has to happen now. If you would like to figure out how to get your science project done, you got to first figure out how to ask me in a reasonable fashion, and you secondly need to figure out what you're going to do the next time. Once you're willing to do that, let me know. I'm going to be in my bedroom with my headphones on. Okay, so something like that. The rule is those sorts of things. And let's just look at this. You've all seen this sort of thing before probably, and I don't know how in the world they come up with those percentages. In every place you look, there are different percentages. But in fact, you can really see that that you can say things in different ways. And I'm going to have you actually, I'm going to have you do this really quickly. So what I want you to do is just quick pair up with 2 other people. Just actually along your rows is fine. Just move together and yeah, this back row, move together. And Gavin, can you go back with that back row, and Piper, can you come with this front row? And Tara, would you go with the back row too? Or actually, you can come right there. Okay, so what I want you to do is just take turns. Take turns, say one at a time, say this line. I want you to try it in as many ways as you can. Okay? So, for example, I might say, hey, what are you doing? Okay? So take it from there. Try it different. Can you add words? Yeah.
Ryan, what are you doing?
Okay, go ahead, try it out.
What are you doing? Just say what are you doing? Give us 3.
I'll give you just spill something. What are you doing? That was last night. It was water on the couch.
Just practice around for a change.
What are you doing? Pipe crash? What are you doing? It wasn't even laughing. I was so angry.
Okay, where we What are you guys doing? Please listen to me. Anyway,
Different emotions.
so that just gives you a little bit of course you all know this already, but I always like the, well, if you think that, tell your face that, you know.
Oh, that's
You do
good.
need to think about your whole delivery. And remember, the reason you do is because they're watching you and they are still learning from you, even if it doesn't seem like they're very receptive. Oh man, they're still very receptive. The last thing I want to say is work on building those savings in your relationship bank. Okay, your relationship bank is the things that you do every single day. You're making deposits in your relationship bank. Every time you talk to your child, take the time to build those good relationships so that when you have to take a withdrawal out and talk about something difficult, you have that as your foundation. It's going to go much better. Let's give an example of that. Hey Tara, you know what? My work is going out to dinner, and I'm thinking pizza. Going to someplace for pizza. And I noticed a lot of your friends hanging around down at that place, Joe's New York Pizza. Yeah, what do you think of that?
It's pretty cool.
You like that place?
Yeah.
And I mean, how does that compare, do you think, with flatbread?
Well, it's a little flatbread. It's cooler at Joe's.
Oh yeah? Well, what's cooler about it?
Well, flatbread is kind of for older people.
Oh, okay. So kind of family-ish?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of expensive, it's true. So you'd rather be with people that are more like you, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and there's no obnoxious little kids running around.
Oh yeah, okay. So I mean, something like that. I'm not necessarily going down to those because she says I am, but just asking opinion. Get to know them more. As things get busier and busier in your family life, it's easy to think you know what your kids think, but they're changing a lot and they're getting new ideas, and they need to think about things too. Helping them verbalize things is very useful. And I do know that some of you have, in particular boys, that are kind of like, you know, it would be more like, you know, can you do a boy with me? Hey, I'm thinking of taking my workout for dinner. I noticed that you guys hang out down at Joe's New York Pizza.
Yeah.
What do you like about it? Well, she's not doing a boy very well. Well, you know what I mean. I don't know. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, and I know some girls are like that, but more often they're not. And that can be difficult, but that, you know, find the thing that's of interest, you know, find those little inroads, build your relationship bank, and just remember that your preteen or your teen really needs you. They may give you the outward message that they couldn't care less if you're in their lives, and that you're a big hindrance, and that's maybe the outward thing, but underneath, they need to know that you care, that you're interested in them, and that you're interested enough to supervise them and expect that they will have a decent relationship with you and your family. So I just wish you the best of the teenage years, and I feel like you're all going to have them. You're all here thinking about your kids, and that is a huge thing, not to be underestimated. Does anybody have questions for the experts here from your own? Yes.
Actually, I'm just more curious if doing these kinds of skits help you guys examine your own behavior with your parents,
Or train your parents?
or does it help your parents? I mean, do you feel like you think about how you communicate just by doing this, or?
I've seen the presentation a lot, and I think my mom sat in on one of my first ones, and after that, we still kind of talk about it, even though that was years ago that she saw it. We still talk about all the different, you know, the brain things and stuff like that. I think it has helped when we really think about it.
Yeah, well, my mom has never sat in on one of these, but I do talk about presentation because I've seen it a few times too. And sometimes when we're having a conversation, I can point out like the good part of it, the bad part.
I like how you went for the strength first, too. That's good. That's really smart. Yeah.
I just, with my son, like, I won't let him do something, and he's always like, you never let me do anything, and I don't let him do things because I know of what could happen. do they ever care that you're doing it for like their safety because you know, or is that just like futile to keep telling them, I'm doing this because I love you and I don't want you to get in situations where you could get in trouble, or is telling them that like they will never get that until they have kids? Like, is it something that they'll never understand?
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think, Piper? Do you think that's something that?
My parents tell me that a lot,
Yeah.
but I mean, I do understand it. Just it's like I want to do that so bad, but I can't.
Yeah. So that sort of
I
trumps the
sort of
understanding.
understand what they're talking about, but it just annoys me like
Right. Yeah. And any thoughts about that?
I think you understand when you look back on it. At the time, you're so focused on wanting to do it that you don't really care why they're not letting you. They're just not letting you, so that's what you're focused on. But I mean, if you look back on it and you see, you know, why, you do understand. It's just the heat of the moment that I think.
And I think it also helps to really explain why you're saying you can't do something. Because if you just say, you can't do that, then it's like, why can't I do that? There's nothing wrong with what I'm doing. But if you explain why, then it helps in the long run.
Give some information, and I also want to point out there's a difference between explaining and convincing. We don't need to convince our children that we're right, okay? In fact, sometimes it's handy to ask them to convince you why they should do it, because then they can think about, whether or not it will make sense. I think letting kids know that you care about them, or it's your job. Bottom line, it's your job. That's a job of a parent. I have to do this. Yeah.
Do you think that kids have more pressure now to want to do things? I mean, we were talking earlier about, about your own parents. A lot of us were in situations where you never questioned your parents.
You
It is
didn't
what it is.
question, right.
And I think part of that is maybe because we were living in a bubble, we didn't necessarily know what was going on every minute of every day with our friends.
Right.
And I think
And
that,
the models out there, right, in the media say you're an adult already. It's not like Wally and Beaver. They weren't, well, I'm really dating myself. You guys didn't have Wally and Beaver, did you?
oh,
Yeah.
Those guys weren't like mini adults. Those guys were kids, So we're being inundated with those models for kids. Yeah.
I think that's really,
Yeah.
what do you feel these parents, how should they react when you go, oh my God, or whatever? I mean, they roll their eyes, fold their hands, and saying stuff. How would you expect or want your parents to react to that? That wouldn't make you upset, because you're obviously.
Probably nothing at all. To show you're not like taking it, you're not having a reaction to it, which is what I'm guessing what I would want you to do. So just not reacting to it at all.
I want my mom to walk away. Just let me, have my temper tantrum and then we can talk about it later, because if she doesn't walk away, like we were doing before, she gets involved in it and then it becomes something bigger than it needs to be.
So seeing it for what it's worth, essentially. You can also ask your kid to walk away, but if they won't, I mean, there's nothing wrong with, you're not going to haul off a, 6-foot kid up to their room. But there's, absolutely, they should learn that when you're out of control, you leave the room. And if you as parents are out of control, it's a great model. I need a break. I'm not social material right now. Yeah. I know that you all, you have to get to lunch. This is so important. But thank you very much for being here. And we have something to give you on our way out. There's information also about Families First.
So Dave on his long, full crouch and like it's all the way down. Like a can sit.
Tell me it's not on middle.
No, in front of our.
Okay. Yeah.
It's very, just like, what, there's a change.